येषां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि.
Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam or KYG. I'm sitting in the premises of the Kapartheeswar Temple, also known as the Sweta Vinayakar or White Ganesha. This is my second visit to this temple, and it called me as I was driving by, so I'm not really prepared for this, but then in this series, I'm learning to follow the heart, intuition. There seems to be a divine guidance. I can't resist that guidance, I can't deny that guidance, and therefore I'm just following my heart. In this class, I'm going to do a synopsis of the Vrittis that we just studied, the 5 types of Vrittis. And I think once in a while, when I think I've covered a section of these sutras, it is worthwhile to summarize it, to kind of present a synopsis, so that as somebody who's studying this, listening to us, will get a chance to review what you learned, rather than wait for some later time when it's more difficult to recollect. So we studied about the 5 types of Vrittis, and these were pramana, direct cognition through the senses. And in that type of Vritti, the direct cognition through the senses, we learned about one is pratyaksha, which is direct perception. Then there was anumana, which was inference. And then there was the testimonial, agama. So we had these 3 types in this direct perception. I'll come back to this, and so this direct perception is called pramana, and I'll come back to this because there is a reason, I think, why Patanjali puts pramana as first and smriti in the last. And we talked about why he put smriti in the last in the previous class itself. But there is a reason why, and I'll come back to this pramana. The second type of vritti we studied was viparyaya or misperception, where the senses see something, or hear something, or touch something, and all of these are come under the sensual experience. But then the mind perceives it differently, because we are either colored by the past or the future expectations, past experiences, or by just emotions and our preconditioned belief systems. We perceive things very differently. So that is misperception, viparyaya. We explored that as well. Then came vikalpa, imagination, where upon hearing something, we start imagining something that really cannot be presented to us through the senses, such as Hanuman flying, or a rabbit with horns, or things like that. So vikalpa was another type of vritti. Then came nidra. Nidra is sleep. So apparently when we think the mind is silence, the absence is recorded as a vritti in the chitta. And the last one that we just talked about in the last class was smriti or memory. So we learned in the last class that memory is a basket that holds all these vrittis, right? Even a second later, it becomes history as far as the mind is concerned. And if I'm able to recall something that just happened a moment ago, it still draws from memory. In modern science, we call it short-term memory, and then you have long-term memory and things like that. But nevertheless, it's memory, and therefore memory becomes an important part of this whole chitta vritti concept, the vrittis in the chitta concept. However, my take-home points from all this, these last 5 classes, studying the 5 Vrittis, the question that I raised to myself when I first studied this, and the answer that I have got since then, which I want to share with you, is this. The question was, all right, from all these Vrittis, which is the one that will lead me to that ekagra state? We have to connect this to the earlier definition. Ekagra is one-pointedness. So which of this will take me towards one-pointedness? Will it be some vritti from the memory, or will memory itself guide me there? Will it be imagination that gives me ekagra? Is it sleep that leads me to that one-pointedness? None of these seemed to, at that point, and even to this day, seem to make sense. That would lead me to that one-pointed vritti, which is so vital, because that's what takes me into Nirodha. That one-pointed vritti, which is the I am principle. I finally come to just that one vritti, the I. Which of these categories can lead me to that experience and that state of Nirodha itself? And so, what I have understood from these 5, and please share your comments and thoughts as well, I respect every one of them, is the pramana, the direct cognition, is the key. And that is why I think Patanjali puts it right in the beginning. He didn't start with imagination, or he didn't start with sleep. He started with direct cognition, pratyaksha pramana. That means direct first-hand experience is what you are searching for, what I am searching for. Just think of it. Agama, in that pramana, the first type of vritti we studied, we had agama, which is testimony from a teacher, from a scripture, from a text, right? Somebody else's testimony, to me, is not direct experience. So I can borrow ideas from that, I can borrow an inspiration from that, I can borrow the teaching, but that cannot become my experience. But just think of it. That person who is telling me, for that person, it is a direct experience. For me, it's a testimony, but for that person, it's a direct experience. As an example, in Amazon, you're going to buy something, you read a review of a person. For that person, it is a direct experience of that product. But for you at this point, and me, because we are in Amazon, we are looking for a particular product, and because we haven't yet purchased it, we haven't experienced the product, we depend on someone else's testimony. But that someone else who's writing the testimony has experienced it firsthand. So it comes down to first-hand experience. Adi Shankara, one of the finest teachers I've ever known, describes this as aparoksha anubhuti, aparoksha, unborrowed experience. In other words, first-hand experience. He's written an entire scripture just on this particular topic. Someday we will study that as well. Aparoksha. Paroksha anubhuti is that which I am borrowing from a text or a scripture, such as Nirodha state, a state of oneness, Kaivalya, and all of this are borrowed at this point for many of us, for those of us who haven't experienced that. But then that state has to be aparoksha, unborrowed. In other words, that state has to come into pramana. It has to become a pratyaksha experience. It has to become a direct experience for me, for you. And when that becomes a direct experience, I'm able to experience that ekagra, one-pointedness. It is because that has not become a direct experience in my consciousness, I get caught in this waywardness. We try something, then we try something else. We go to one teacher, another teacher, we try one text and we try another text. And so we seem to be swinging in this pendulum, and it seems to be going forever, right? Why is that? Why is this journey into spirituality going forever? Why is it not stopping or even pausing? Is because we are constantly trying to make a borrowed experience our experience. But when we tasted it firsthand, then the train stops, this journey stops, it slows down. And then we begin to understand the essence of every word that we have heard so far, every idea and concept that we had imagined so far, every experience that was gained in deep sleep or in memory suddenly comes to life and becomes in the moment, present, alive, firsthand. That is why my beloved Guru would always say, Bhagwan Baba would always say, have a direct contact with your higher self, with God. There is no intermediary. You can read books, you can listen to everyone, but then it all comes to direct experience. And so my take-home point, if you will, from all these vrittis are, while all these vrittis are causing impressions on my chitta, and are constantly, my chitta is bombarded with all of these vrittis, there is one that stands out, and that is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is direct experience, where I know beyond any doubt because it is my experience. Spirituality, and especially yoga in particular, is a very subjective study. It is not an objective study. The values, the ethics, the principles of Vedanta, of spirituality, of yoga can be shared and to some extent can be common, which is why I explained right in the very beginning that yoga is anushasana. There is a systematic way that it needs to be taught, it needs to be shared. But then how you experience this is entirely up to you. So there is, to some extent, a very small extent I would put, where there is an element of objectivity in terms of the text that is available to everyone. The interpretations then become slowly subjective. Based on each and everyone's experience, they begin to interpret the teachings. But what finally happens as a first-hand experience is a very subjective experience. I try to be very mindful not to share my experiences, spiritual experiences, only for this reason. Because then what happens is there is a tendency to mistake that subjective experience as an objective one. And so somebody else might say, why am I not having this particular experience that you had? You saw a blue light when the Agnya Chakra opened, but I am not seeing any light, but I feel a vibration there. So there is no way we can compare at that level of first-hand experiences, one versus the other. There is no better, there is no worse, there is no good or bad. There is just the experience. So what should matter then to you and me is the depth of that experience, the purity of that experience. When I have a first-hand experience, then the heart, the chitta, the soul knows it. There is no room for doubt. Then know that it is a divine experience. I'll leave you with this small anecdote. We were sitting around Baba, a few of us, and one of us asked this question to Baba: how do we know it is the voice of God that speaks to us? When that voice comes, how do we know without any doubt? And almost immediately Baba jumped and answered that. He said, when you have a doubt, it is not the voice of God. When it is the voice of God, you will have no doubt. How powerful is that? When you are in doubt of your experience, was it imagination or what was it? Then know that it was perhaps imagination. But when it is a direct divine experience, then in your heart there will be no doubt. There will be no doubt. You will know, and no one in this world can shake that experience or take away that experience from you, not even your own memory. However frail that memory may be, it cannot take away that experience, because that experience is what causes true transformation. And therefore, my dear friends, let us work towards that one vritti, the pratyaksha, the experience of the pratyaksha, the direct experience. And then when that direct experience of simply the I exists, then we drop that as well. In the path of devotion, a great example that we learn is from a sage called Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. He comes from Calcutta, West Bengal in India. He was lost in his devotion to Mother Kali. He was a priest at that temple, and all that mattered to him was Mother Kali. And nothing else but Mother Kali. He wanted to experience Mother Kali in her fullest measure, in the formless brilliance, but he couldn't get past that form. So what was his direct experience, that one vritti that he had to drop? He didn't know this I am, and all of this concept. For him, it was just Mother Kali, Mother Kali. Everything ended at Mother Kali, and all was there was that form of Mother Kali. And then his guru comes and hits him on his forehead, and then suddenly that one vritti of Mother Kali, that's all there was. He wasn't there, no creation, there was just Mother Kali. And then that vritti dropped, and he experienced the nirvikalpa samadhi. As we study the Yoga Sutras, we will come across this. Samprajñāta samadhi or savikalpa samadhi, and asamprajñāta samadhi or nirvikalpa samadhi. We will talk about it when the context comes. But look at that. That one vritti could be anything. For him, it was that name and form which he adored, which he worshipped, and all he knew was only that, and only that remained. So it could be just the Shiva in our consciousness, a form of Shiva that needs to be dropped. It could be just the Krishna that needs to be dropped. It could be the I am principle that comes in meditation that needs to be dropped. But that experience of Shiva, that experience of I am, that experience of Mother Kali has to be a direct experience. Then you attain that ekagraha, and then the divine opens that door when even that is dropped, and you merge into that very concept. Then name and form doesn't matter. Until then it does. At least to me it does. We need to be cautioned about being tempted into becoming just mere philosophers, where we constantly go back and forth between who said what, which text said what, and what concepts are. When something makes sense to you, assimilate it, take it into yourself and begin meditating, because the paths are many, but the goal is one. What matters is, what is my direct experience? What is my pratyaksha? What is that one vritti that is going to open that door to that state of oneness or Kaivalya? So my take home from these vrittis are the pratyaksha, the state of direct experience. Please let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Know that when you share a comment and a thought, others read it too, and so we all learn. We form a community of learning and sharing. So please don't feel shy. Thank you as always for giving me this opportunity to be an instrument in the hands of the divine. Until we meet again, stay blessed, stay inspired. Namaste.
क्लीं Kaivalya